Tell that nigga Jesus. I said, please call my cell phone. I'ma whoop his ass.
I got triggers on these niggas, no more nigga peas. If you fucking with the team, don't be switching up the scene. They believing in the lies, why you never find niggas? That's why we call them bronze, aka the God killer. When we blaze through, shit is see-through like Grey Goose. And everything around get tight like a straight noose. All we did was give information and they hate through. Instead of showing love, they gave it all to it.
Hey, welcome everybody. I'm just doing a few series on reading the banker's code and everything dealing with the trust and stuff. So I'll just be doing a few private videos and uploading them, showing you all, so you can go and go back and read it. And yes, definitely. I'm going to be doing a live probably sometime this probably Sunday or whatever. But definitely I just want to try to get a few of these videos out for you all that I'm going to just play so you can go back, and save this to your archive so you can listen in. So without further ado, we're about to get into it. Let me get ready to share the screen.
Wealth Classes Publishing. www.wealthclassespublishing.com. The Banker's Code, the most powerful wealth building strategies, finally revealed. George Antone. www.thebankerscodebook.com. Wealth Classes Publishing. www.wealthclassespublishing.com. First edition, copyright 2012 by George Antone. All rights.
All up, I just want to go. First, I want to start off with the Supreme Court information right quick. Give me a minute. Yeah, for revocation. Well, no, actually, I want to do this right here for the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. So let's see. No, I have. See, if they'll allow me to do it, but I guess not. But I guess we're just gonna go here and finish reading this. Okay, there we go.
Rights reserved. No part. Forward by David Lindahl. Acknowledgements. The inspiration for this book, Chapter 1. And then there was banking. Chapter 2. It's nothing but a financing game. Chapter 3. Pick a team first. Chapter 4. Money, interest, and being a private lender. Chapter 5. The language of bankers. Chapter 6. The banker's mindset. Chapter 7. But who would pay 12%? Chapter 8. The finance. It gets better. Chapter 9. The banking. The parts. Chapter 10. The steps. Chapter 11. The banker's rules. Chapter 12. Understanding the banking system. Chapter 13. Let's combine everything. Chapter 14. I want to be a real estate investor. Chapter 15. I want to invest in the stock market, Chapter 16. Build your team, Chapter 17. Leaving a legacy, Chapter 18. The Secret Society resources.
And we're probably not gonna go through all 18 chapters on this stream. We might just give you all maybe the first 3 chapters or the first 4 chapters, because I don't want to get too much. Had the people like, this is a lot to go over. So yeah, I just want to give it to you like a baby steps or whatever. But this is definitely a book that you would need, saying, to keep for your references. But Michelle, we're going to continue.
Anthony Robbins said it best. It is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. I believe that. I believe that the decisions we make define the trajectory of our lives and, ultimately, our fortune. I made one of those decisions when I began my own wealth-building journey as a struggling landscaper, living in a one-room. I've been challenged a lot about what I teach, and I was genuinely surprised to find my own mindset challenged with this book. What a treat it was to read a book from cover to cover and still want more. I've known George Antone for several years now. It's rare to find a brilliant financier mind that can also share sophisticated information in such a simple way. I know that, like me, you'll immediately find yourself absorbing sophisticated wealth-building strategies easily and quickly. You'll enthusiastically explore new paradigms, uncovering amazing, new possibilities for building wealth. His simple, down-to-earth style takes complex techniques and, with George's unique touch, breaks it all down into a step-by-step approach that anyone can understand and, more important, implement. But be warned, the Banker's Code is truly for individuals interested in taking their wealth to a whole new level. It's not a book that just talks about what could be. This book will change the way you look at the core of your financial life and will have your mind reeling with amazing possibilities that can help you create the life that dreams are made of. As George shares in the book, investors and private lenders need each other. This book opens your eyes to a business model that has been around for a very long time, being the banker without using your money. Just like the banks do it. Today's economic woes may be dominating many conversations, but George's book comes at a perfect time. I'm betting that almost every reader will be wishing they'd had this information a long time ago. The Banker's Code is a game changer and can be the difference between struggling with your wealth building or not. Many years ago, I made the decision to change my destiny. George made the decision to change his destiny. You now have in your hands a book that can change your destiny. Once again, it is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Make that decision to read this book cover to cover. Get ready to be blown away. David Lindahl, founder, Creative Success Alliance. Writing my first book, The Wealthy Code, changed my life. I have since realized that I really enjoy sharing the wealth of information I've learned. Writing this second book, The Banker's Code, was an easier task because of the support of many people. Everyone at wealthclasses.com has helped me in a number of different ways, especially Stephanie May, who helped in many ways write this book. Also, thanks to my business partners, Gary Boomershine, Haider Nazar, and Fong Deng. Willie Hooks, you are a true inspiration to me and to others. Coaches Mary, Ray, and Mark, thank you for always being there and supporting me in times of need. Julia Jordan, I have no words to describe how amazing you are. Thanks for always being you. Swanee Hyberg, thank you for allowing me to hassle you with this book. You are a great friend. And to all of our students that have taken this information and implemented it, changing your lives with it, thanks. You. It's you that keep us going and you that help us achieve our goal, to end financial suffering and health. People get the wealth they need to live the lifestyle they desire. It's you we celebrate. Nor would this book have been possible without Tom and Tamara Dever and everyone else at TLC Graphics. Thank you so much. The secret to the greatest dynasty the world has ever known. Long ago, in the 1700s, lived a man named Mayer, born in poverty in the ghettos of Frankfurt. One day, he discovered a secret, a great secret powerful enough to make him fabulously wealthy. Mayer taught his 5 sons this secret and then sent them to live throughout Europe. They, in turn, used the secret to build the greatest international financial dynasty the world has ever known. Today, this family continues to pass its secret from one generation to the next, and the family's influence and power have reached every corner of the earth. They are the Rothschilds. The Banker's Code was inspired by this true story. Get ready to learn the banker's secrets. And then there was banking. I walked into my mentor's office loaded with questions. Let me ask you this. What's
the most powerful, wealth-building strategy ever known to man? I asked. My mentor, a successful, down-to-earth, approachable man, had built his wealth in real estate. I had met him only a few years earlier, and he had already changed my life with his wisdom. Help? I've been challenged a lot about what I teach, and I was genuinely surprised to find my own mindset challenged with this book. What a treat it was to read a book from cover to cover and still want more. I've known George Antone for several years now. It's rare to find a brilliant financier mind that can also share sophisticated information in such a simple way. I know that, like me, you'll immediately find yourself absorbing sophisticated wealth-building strategies easily and quickly. You'll enthusiastically explore new paradigms, uncovering amazing, new possibilities for building wealth. His simple, down-to-earth style takes complex techniques and, with George's unique touch, breaks it all down into a step-by-step approach that anyone can understand and, more important, implement. But be warned, the Banker's Code is truly for individuals interested in taking their wealth to a whole new level. It's not a book that just talks about what could be. This book will change the way you look at the core of your financial life and will have your mind reeling with amazing possibilities that can help you create the life that dreams are made of. As George shares in the book, investors and private lenders need each other. This book opens your eyes to a business model that has been around for a very long time, being the banker without using your money. Just like the banks do it. Today's economic woes may be dominating many conversations, but George's book comes at a perfect time. I'm betting that almost every reader will be wishing they'd had this information a long time ago. The Banker's Code is a game changer and can be the difference between struggling with your wealth building, or not. Many years ago, I made the decision to change my destiny. George made the decision to change his destiny. You now have in your hands a book that can change your destiny. Once again, it is in your moments of decision that your destiny is shaped. Make that decision to read this book cover to cover. Get ready to be blown away. David Lindahl, founder, Creative Success Alliance. Writing my first book, The Wealthy Code, changed my life. I have since realized that I really enjoy sharing the wealth of information I've learned. Writing this second book, The Banker's Code, was an easier task because of the support of many people. Everyone at wealthclasses.com has helped me in a number of
We're going to skip a little bit of that from this intro, so we're just heading straight down to where it says chapter 1 right quick.
By this true story. Get ready to learn the banker's secrets. And then there was banking. I walked into my mentor's office, loaded with questions. Let me ask you this. What's the most powerful, wealth building strategy ever known to man? I asked. My mentor, a successful, down to earth, approachable man, had built his wealth in real estate. I had met him only a few years earlier, and he had already changed my life with his wisdom. Hello to you, too, he chuckled, pointing to a chair. Sorry. Hello. I replied with a sheepish grin as I settled into the chair. So, you want to learn about the most powerful wealth building strategies known to man? Yeah. I'm curious what you think they are. The information you shared with me a few weeks ago about passive income was powerful, but I want to know what you think stands out from all the other strategies you and I have talked about. A few weeks earlier we had discussed the code the wealthy use in generating great cash flow from their investments. The absolute, most powerful wealth strategy ever known to man. I can tell you with certainty what it is, my mentor announced with confidence. It's not something I think I know, it's something I know. And the richest people in the world will tell you the same thing. However, the majority of the population doesn't know what it is. He eyed me carefully, drawing out his words as he continued. I'm not sure you're ready for it, though. It's not that it's difficult. In fact, it's quite simple, but that's also its danger. It gives you power, but most people can't handle that power, he said mysteriously. Was he talking about wealth building or something else? I wasn't sure. Come on, man. I chuckled. After a few minutes of listening to me beg while he checked his email, he swung his chair towards me and replied, Okay, after I whet your appetite, I'm going to send you to a friend of mine. Once you speak to him, come back to me, and you'll know the secret. You'll know the most powerful wealth building strategy known to man. Have you ever wondered if there's a secret so great that it can help you live a much better life financially? There is, and this information has built dynasties. Let's start from the beginning. Who taught you about becoming wealthy? Parents? Teachers? Friends? Priests? And where are they financially? The saying goes that if you want to be a billionaire, learn from a billionaire. If you want to be a millionaire, learn from a millionaire. If you want to be broke, learn from someone who's broke. Most people are learning about money and about being rich from the wrong people. The people who know about the secret strategies described in this book have kept this knowledge to themselves, selfishly passing it from generation to generation. Consider the Rothschilds, the greatest banking dynasty the world has ever known, still going strong, still passing these same strategies from one generation to the next. And yet, this secret has been hidden right in front of us the entire time. It's been available to practically everyone. It can be found on nearly every corner of this country. Here's my promise. I will reveal to you, in the pages of this book, the most powerful wealth strategy known to man. What's in this book will almost certainly challenge your beliefs about money. All I ask is that you keep an open mind while you read, and you will learn some amazing things. The secret lies in the game of Monopoly. Many people have played the classic board game Monopoly. As children, we grew up playing the game with friends and family, yet most of us never noticed the secret that in real life has created billionaires. This secret allows you to win Monopoly every single time. What is that secret? Take a moment to think about it. Buying 4 green homes in a hotel? No. There's no guarantee you'll win the game with that. Buying Park Place in Mayfair? No. There's no guarantee you'll win the game with that, either. In fact, the secret to winning the game is to be the banker. Think about it. The banker wins every single time. Why is that? It's because the game players are playing with one set of rules, the investor's rules. The banker is playing with a different set of rules, the banker's rules. So, there are really 2 games going on. The banker's rules are all about making the most money with the least risk. The investor's rules are about making the most money, but investors incur more risk than do the bankers. In the board game, one player, investor, wins while all the other players, also investors, lose. However, the banker always wins. Obviously, real life is different. Many investors do win, but many also lose. In fact, a lot more investors lose the game because they're playing with investors' rules stacked to the banker's advantage. Keep reading to find out why. The second game in Monopoly is the banker's game. The bankers follow the banker's rules. The banker's rules are very different from the investor's rules. They were written by bankers for bankers. And here's the rub. The investors' rules were written by the bankers as well. So, which rules do you think are more favorable to the banks? The bankers have written both sets of rules to work for them. Investors and bankers play two different games with two sets of rules. However, the bankers rotate the rules for both games. Whom do you think their rules favor? The banker plays a safer game and makes more money. If he needs money, he can create more money. We'll cover the banker's rules later, but it's important to understand that the rules of both games were written by bankers. So, the first step to making money, like the bank, is to adopt the mindset of the banker and play by the banker's rules. The secret is to learn to beta bank, adopt the mindset of the banker and play by the banker's rules. The proof. The average person is playing in a game they don't even know exists. Sadly, they're losing that game, too. This reminds me of the science fiction movie, The Matrix, where the main character in the movie, Neo, is introduced to the truth about his world by shedding light on the dark secrets that have troubled him for so long. You've felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. Ultimately, Morpheus illustrates to Neo what the Matrix is, a reality beyond reality that controls all of their lives, in a way that Neo can barely comprehend. When it comes to our world, we're also involved in a game that we have no idea exists. Unfortunately, the reward for that game is our money. The other team is beating us at this game, and we're constantly having to fork over money. This game is called the financing game, and our opponents are the financial institutions. In fact, we actually have two opponents, the financial institutions and the government. Let's look at the proof. Of the average American's income, 34.5% goes towards paying interest alone. That doesn't include principal, just interest. Interest on credit cards, mortgages, car loans, furniture, among other things. The recipients of that interest are the financial institutions. Another 30% of the average American's income goes towards paying income taxes. The recipient of that revenue is the government. And finally, less than 5% of the average American's income goes towards savings. Consider those numbers. 64.5% of the average American's income is going to financial institutions and the government. That means we're spending 2/3 of our time working to pay the financial institutions and the government. Put differently, the average American works from January 1st all the way through August 31st for financial institutions and the government. Then, we live on the money we have earned from September 1st to December 31st st. Or so we think, until we realize that it's actually worse, a lot worse. In the Matrix, Neo discovers that the world he knew is not what he thinks, it's actually being controlled, and everyone is basically a puppet. Unfortunately, in real life so are we. The proof is in the numbers. As noted above, the average American has become a slave to the financial system. And for those of you who are debt-free and pay off your credit cards every month, you have a lot to learn, as well. We've been conditioned to work hard while helping the bankers become rich. But this book is about to change that for you. You are about to become the banker. A basic look at how banks work. We've been conditioned to deposit our money into banks, saving money in our savings account, or checking, money market, CDs, etc. We're trained to think that our money is safe in those bank accounts, because we trust the bankers. We're then paid a measly interest rate, and just in case that measly rate wasn't a slap in the face, we have to pay taxes on it to the government. The bank then uses our money to leverage up to 10 times, or more, in certain cases, by using the fractional reserve system. Our $1,000 deposit generates up to $10,000 in loans for the bank. We then proceed to borrow that money from the bank, our own money, at a much higher interest rate, and they tie up our homes and other collateral, just in case we default. So, because we're borrowing money from the banks, they now can set their own terms, the interest rate, the collateral requirement, the term of the loan, etc. We complain that the terms of the loan don't favor us, but then we're reminded of the golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules. Banks make the rules. The extremely wealthy make the rules. No getting around it. So, we sign on the dotted line and borrow the money. Remember, it was our money, on their terms. If we should default, they end up taking all the collateral they tied up. That's when we realize they tied up a lot more collateral than what we borrowed. We are reminded again that they set the rules, so we have to play by their terms. They dump our collateral for nothing, just to get their money back. And they do get their money back. We took on a lot more risk than we needed, but we had no choice. The bankers set the rules. But most of us don't default. As we pay the loan, they re-lend us the same money, again and again. They're moving money fast. They're taking little risk and making a lot of money. We realize we're still paying interest long after we've paid the bank the original loan amount. Moreover, they've generated many more loans from the same money we paid them, and we're still paying them. We feel like we have no choice. But we do. We can get angry at the bank and play the victim. Or, we can become the banker. We're conditioned to deposit money into banks. Why not deposit it in our own personal bank? Why not lend our own money to others, taking on the safer position and making more money? Why not leverage our own money up to 10 times and lend it out? You can do all of this, and make a lot of money. But before you start counting your billions, you need to understand something about this book. It was not my intent to provide for you a how-to-do-it shortcut to wealth. Rather, my primary goal in writing this book was to get you to open your eyes to the possibilities, to recognize opportunities, to help you to see what's right in front of you. With that understanding, let's jump into building the foundation to being your own banker. Being a banker is all about adopting their mindset and their rules, understanding how they manage money and how they use financial strategies to make a lot more money, and ultimately, working to leave a legacy to the next generation of bankers in your family. Is this for real? I asked. Is it really possible for just anyone to be a banker? We're not talking about opening a real bank, George. We're not talking about getting a banking license. But we are talking about making money just like a bank, my mentor patiently replied. If you adopt the mindset, the rules, and the strategies of a banker, he added, you can have a much better life financially. Just don't let the power get to you. Always follow the banker's rules. And don't forget, bankers make more money than investors, with a lot less risk. Investors play by the banker's rules. The bankers play by their own rules. The investors' rules are stacked to the banker's advantage. Of the average American's income, 34.5% goes towards paying interest alone, 30% goes towards taxes. That's an indication that the average American is working 2/3 of his time for bankers and the government. This book's primary objective is to open your eyes to the possibilities. It's nothing but a financing game. In fact, let me share one thing with you right now, George. This 15-minute lesson will be an awakening for you, he predicted confidently. Grab a pen and paper. This, the first secret about banking, you do not want to miss. So get ready to write. Let's dive in. I grabbed a clean sheet of paper. It's about cash flow first. Why do people invest? For one of two reasons: cash flow or capital gains. The wealthy recognize, as I explained in the Wealthy Code, that they need cash flow to pay for their living expenses and lifestyle. They also recognize that investments for capital gains are nothing more than money that will buy more income-producing assets in the future. But the middle class and poor tend to invest for capital gains only. For example, investments, such as buying stocks for the long term, buy and hold strategy, are very typical. The general public has been conditioned by the financial institutions to think like that. We'll cover this later in the book. Bankers, and other wealthy people, realize that it's about cash flow first. So how do you generate cash flow? Cash flow is about arbitrage, creating a spread between the cost of borrowed money and what an investment pays. Arbitrage is nothing more than a leveraged strategy. The figure below illustrates that. To create an arbitrage opportunity, you need to have the following criteria, a simplified formula for passive income, in place. 1. An income-producing asset, such as an apartment building, rental property, insurance policy, business, bonds. 2. A lender that is willing to lend against the asset as collateral, obtain leverage. 3. Income that is larger than the loan payments and expenses related to the asset. That's it. That's the simple formula for passive income. Some individuals can buy an asset for all cash without leverage, but for most people cash is a limited resource. Adding the second step allows you to scale up your passive income. An investor buying an apartment building can use the apartment building as collateral for the loan. The investor puts some money down, borrows the rest from the bank, and creates the arbitrage. This meets all three of the criteria above. Similarly, an investor buying a small rental property can use the property as collateral for the loan. The rent is the income. The investor puts some money down, borrows the rest from the bank, and creates the arbitrage. This also meets all three of the criteria above. For a business owner buying, let's say, a car wash, the business is the income-producing asset, criterion number 1, and lenders are willing to lend against it to help the business owner buy it, criterion no. 2, and finally, hopefully, the income is larger than the loan payments and the expenses of the business, criterion number 3. Obviously, the business owner has to deal with the headaches of running the business, potential lawsuits, employees, and other day-to-day issues. Similarly, the landlord in the previous examples has to deal with the headaches of tenants and toilets. Let's suppose you could buy a black box from a retail store and place it on your shelf at home. Let's also suppose that the black box generates $1,000 per month in income for you. That allows you to meet criterion number 1 in our formula. Suppose that a lender is willing to lend you the money to buy it. For example, the retail store offers financing to buy it. This allows you to meet criterion number 2. Now suppose the loan payments are $700 per month. This allows you to keep a difference, passive income, of $300 per month. Remember, the black box is generating $1,000 per month. This allows you to meet criterion number 3. The black box is headache-free with no hassles. It just sits on your shelf at home and makes you money. Now, if you could buy as many of these black boxes as you want, would you prefer to own the car wash, rental properties, or this black box? Obviously, the black box. The point of this is to illustrate that the main reason we buy some of these assets for passive income. The car wash, laundromats, rental properties, self-storage, is for the sake of generating passive income. First, we don't buy them simply for the sake of buying them or owning them. In fact, when I hear people say how excited they are to own real estate, I realize they don't own enough real estate to know what they're talking about. We own real estate or these businesses for the sake of passive income first. Now, the black box doesn't really exist, but the question is, what is the closest thing to this black box? Well, the answer may surprise you. Suppose a borrower borrows $50,000 at 10% from a lender and signs a mortgage to the lender. The lender now has an income-producing asset. The piece of paper, the mortgage, is now an asset that produces an income, the interest, for them. This meets criterion number 1 in our simple, passive income formula. Now the lender can borrow against this asset, the mortgage, at a lower rate. This is called hypothecation. In our example, the lender pledges this mortgage as collateral for a loan of $50,000 at, say, 7%. This meets criterion number 2. At this point, the lender receives payments at 10% interest and pays 7% interest, leaving a 3% spread. This meets criterion number 3. Let's step back for a second and think about what just happened. To generate passive income, you need, at the core of it, 2 things, an asset and leverage, borrowed money. You use the asset to pledge as collateral to get the borrowed money. Most people have to find a physical structure or a business, as the asset, to pledge as collateral to borrow that money. But the banker simply prints the collateral, the mortgage document, and as long as someone is willing to sign it, that document is now an income-producing asset that can generate passive income. Investors have to buy physical structures, such as properties or businesses, to use as collateral to get leverage, borrowed money, so they can generate cash flow. Then they are forced to deal with the aggravations of these assets, such as tenant problems, overflowing toilets, employee hassles, inevitable lawsuits, and a myriad of other nightmare scenarios. Bankers simply print a piece of paper, a mortgage, and as long as someone is willing to sign it as a borrower, it serves as the collateral for borrowed money. This is known as hypothecation. The end result is the same. Cash flow. So, a banker with a filing cabinet of 40 mortgages, each generating $300 per month, is the equivalent to a landlord with a lot of homes, each generating $300 per month. So, What is the closest thing to that black box? The banker's mortgages. Bankers create collateral out of paper, borrow against it, and create an arbitrage opportunity immediately. This is power. But it gets better. Other investors, as you will find out in upcoming chapters, take on a bigger risk than the lender. They also play by the lender's rules. You create your own arbitrage opportunity as a lender by creating collateral out of thin air, shifting the risk to the borrower, putting you in a safer position, generating the cash flow you're looking for, and writing the rules by which the borrower has to play. You accomplish the same thing as investors, i.e., arbitrage, but much more easily with a lot less hassle. It's a financing game. Bankers recognize that generating cash flow from spreads is nothing more than a financing game. Most real estate investors think it's about real estate. It's not. It's a financing game for them, as well. The only reason they purchase a building is for the sake of creating a spread. It's not about the tenants. It's not about the physical property. A building is simply collateral that the bank is willing to lend against so that the investor can make a spread. Similarly, a business owner buying a business, for example, a laundromat, for some cash flow thinks it's about the laundromat. It's not. He buys it simply to generate a spread. He uses the business as collateral for a loan to create a spread. In reality, it's a financing game. Bankers recognize that, and they play it quite well. They create the collateral from a piece of paper, creating spreads from that all day long. They know they're in the business of financing, safety, and making lots of money. They have the best position. Let them think what they want. We know the truth. Bankers know it. They've shifted the risk to the borrower. They're in position to make money, and they tied up the borrower's collateral, just in case. They're in the business of financing and safety. But they need borrowers. They need to use other people's money to create spreads. So they condition the population to borrow money using good collateral and the banker's rules. They've shifted the risk to the borrowers, as we shall find out. They've conditioned everyone to invest for capital gains. This allows the invested money to sit with the bankers and make even more money, because the money is dead. It's not moving for the rest of us. They condition the population about saving their money in their banks, becoming a chunk of their money source they can then use in creating spreads. They know they have the most powerful wealth-building strategies ever known to man. But they keep it a secret, otherwise we all become bankers and no one is left to be a borrower. Welcome to banking. I arrived in San Ramon, found the park my mentor had told me about, parked my car, and walked across the open field he mentioned. I noticed Dr. Jez right away, sitting on the park bench at the top of the hill, with a commanding view of the San Ramon Valley. The sun, hidden from view for the past several days, was shining now, and Dr. Jez was soaking it in as if he were relaxing on a Caribbean beach instead of a park bench in California. I approached him hesitantly, nervous about meeting him. He was a fastidious man with piercing eyes that radiated intelligence. In his brown suit, he looked older than I thought, in his 70s I decided. When he spoke, his voice calmed me instantly. So, your mentor tells me you're a pretty sharp man. He tells me he's very proud of what you have accomplished, so far, he chuckled. He asked me to tell you a story that I've told to only a few very close friends. And it is because of your mentor that I have agreed to do so. I think I mumbled, wow, thank you. After some small talk, he asked, have you ever been to New Jersey? No. Well, the view from this spot reminds me of the Princeton campus there. I spent many hours there with my own mentor, a friend I think you will be interested in hearing more about. He was a remarkable man, and he talked to me about things that he did not talk to most people about. He was a genius with numbers, an intellectual who understood finance at its core and who was able to see things with numbers that most people could not. I was getting interested now and beginning to see why my mentor wanted me to meet Dr. Jez. He was your mentor? I asked. Yes. In fact, he was, and still is, considered one of the greatest scientific minds of the 20th century. I cannot reveal his name at this time, but let's call him Herbert, said Dr. Jez. And yes, he was my mentor and my friend, and he changed my life. Scientific mind? You mean he was a scientist? I asked incredulously. I know scientists discover or invent all kinds of stuff, I stammered, but how did he help you? I mean, how did he help you become so wealthy? Dr. Jez laughed. He got up to stretch, and said, "Young man, let's walk a bit and keep things moving." As we slowly walked around the park, he began to tell me a story. Herbert was a genius with numbers, and he could strategize 100 different ways to reach a goal without even thinking about it. Most people don't know he was fascinated with finance, and in fact, he wrote about it quite a bit, most of it in his private manuscripts. Dr. Jez told me about how he had met Herbert at Princeton while working on campus, about how the two had formed an unlikely friendship, and how Herbert had tutored and mentored him until his death. He told me more about Herbert's writings and how he would draw pictures, notes, and ideas all over the margins of his books and notebooks. "My friend," Dr. Jez finally said, "the sun has long since left us, and I'm afraid I must leave, too. But if you would like, we can continue tomorrow, right here in this beautiful spot." The next day, I could hardly wait, and I smiled to myself as I realized I was an hour early this time. I had armed myself with my own list of questions, notes, and drawings I wanted to discuss with this wonderful man. "Ah, I see you came prepared and eager to know more. That's good. Let's take a walk." We strolled around the park some more, and he paused now and again to push a stone or a small branch to the side of the walkway gingerly and efficiently with the tip of his shoe. "Tell me more about Herbert, and why finance?" I blurted out. By the time we took a small detour to a nearby cafe, I felt like I had known this man for a long time. He reminded me of my grandfather. Once he had doctored his coffee to his liking, he said. Herbert was fascinated by numbers, not for the sake of making money in finance, but for the sake of challenging himself with discovering something new. He believed that there is something about finance that could result in wealth while minimizing risk, and he ultimately discovered the ideal way of doing that. Herbert wrote one special book, a manuscript really, that contains those financial secrets I'm sharing with you, he said. He taught me what was in it. Fascinating information. Beautiful stuff, George. Then, at his death, his will stipulated that 6 copies be made of his original manuscript and that they, including the original manuscript, be distributed to 7 different people. I received one, his family received one, a young, homeless boy received one, and I am not sure where the others ended up. I have been the caretaker of mine for many years, telling only a very few about it. This manuscript contains some of the most amazing, fantastic secrets that have given me, and some of the most powerful people in history, our wealth. I was getting more and more excited by the minute. After several hours of chatting about the fascinating experiences of his younger years, Dr. Jez looked at his watch and sighed. "I'm afraid I must go now," he said. "Let's meet again tomorrow, I'll bring you a surprise." Generating cash flow boils down to following a specific formula, outlined in the Wealthy Code. At a basic level, generating cash flow requires 2 things, an income-producing asset and the leverage, borrowed money, to buy this asset. For business owners and investors, the income-producing asset typically turns out to be a physical structure with many aggravations. For bankers, the income-producing asset becomes a piece of paper they print and the borrower signs. Business owners or investors think they are in the business of doing what the structures they bought do, but the reality is, they are in the business of generating a spread in the business of financing. That's what the banker recognizes. For more information and additional training about arbitrage, please refer to the resources page in the back of the book. Pick a team first. Yes, it's the manuscript, Dr. Jez laughed. Here is Herbert's work. Look. See for yourself. Are your hands clean? He chided. I could see why. The manuscript was very heavy, thick and covered with leather, darkened now by time and countless handlings with a thick, braided cord, shiny from wear, tied around its middle. The pages were of heavy paper, yellowed, of course, with age, and every page was covered with writings, graphs, and drawings. But I was more fascinated with the countless abbreviations, notes, and pictures drawn everywhere in the margins. The title was etched on the cover, The Book of the Banker's Code. In some cases, Herbert had apparently used his own shorthand, but it all looked like hieroglyphics to me. I hoped Dr. Jez could read it all, and more important, that he would tell me everything. Are you ready to find out what some of this means? He chuckled. Dr. Jez turned the pages of the manuscript gingerly and pointed to a diagram with 3 circles. A lot of arrows pointed back and forth between the circles, which simply said consumer. producer, and banker, with countless scribbles surrounding the circles. You need to start by trying to understand the teams in the game of finance. They boil down to three. Understanding the mindsets and the role of each team is critical to your success in finance, Dr. Jez began. The better you understand the teams, the more evident it becomes which one will always win. In fact, it's almost not fair how much easier one of those teams has it. You will soon understand why this team doesn't want many people joining them, he continued. Pick your team. The world is divided into three teams: consumers, producers, and bankers. Consumers use products and services. They are the ones who buy the latest electronics, smartphones, and impressive cars. Producers provide products and services. They're the ones that manufacture or sell the latest gizmos, phones, cars, televisions, food, and more. Everything a consumer uses comes from a producer. The producers are the ones that create jobs and hire consumers to work for them. They are masters of systems that generate profits. Many believe this is the most interesting position to be in because it is always challenging and, with the right mindset, can be seen as a game for adults. The world is divided into three teams: consumers, producers, and bankers. Bankers finance both consumers and producers. The consumer uses that money to buy products and services from the producer, and the producer uses that borrowed money to produce those products and services for the consumer. The bankers don't have to laugh all the way to the bank. After all, they own the bank, so they laugh while sitting in the bank. They are masters of shifting risk to the borrower and financing. Every person has the option of choosing which side to play on. But most people think they are limited to being a consumer for the rest of their lives. Consumers have to work hard all their lives to pay for the financing of goods and services. They make up the majority of the world, and without them, producers and bankers would suffer. So it's in everyone's best interest to have consumers working hard in jobs and using borrowed money to buy goods and services. They aren't aware that they are always being conditioned to buy stuff or being persuaded into buying certain brands. They aren't aware of how producers and bankers team up to influence them into buying. Producers partner with advertising agencies, credit card companies, bankers, and the media to condition the consumer to spend borrowed money on stuff. Hundreds of millions of dollars are spent on conditioning the consumer to spend money. The biggest companies in the world partner with experts to ensure that consumers spend. This is not necessarily a bad thing. The consumer is buying something of value: a home, a car, a smartphone, food, and the like. Producers borrow money from bankers, use that to generate products and services, and pass on the cost, along with hefty profits, of the borrowed money to the consumer. They focus on creating value to the consumers. Whether it's opening a restaurant, a nearby mall, a movie theater, or housing, producers are always looking at the needs and wants of consumers and providing stuff to satisfy those needs and wants. Producers have to focus on their systems generating a profit with the borrowed money, otherwise, it all backfires. Using borrowed money can turn around and hurt producers if they fail to turn a profit. Many entrepreneurs go out of business within a few years because they lack the skills needed to build a business. Bankers, on the other hand, make the most money. They use borrowed money to lend out and tie up the borrower's collateral. They cover their downside and let the upside take care of itself. They are masters of shifting risk to the borrowers. If borrowers fail to pay, they lose all the collateral to the bankers. The bank ties up enough collateral to make sure they make enough money. However, if the borrower is successful in paying back the banker makes money. Either way, the banker wins. The best part of being the banker is that they recognize they don't need to have money to lend out. Through a combination of using borrowed money and printing money, they can make money, and lots of it. I'll explain this later. Every person on this planet fits into at least one of these three teams. Producers and bankers are, of course, also consumers. There is no other choice. By default, people start as consumers, but producers and bankers become the rich. Every producer needs a money person. Consider the diagram below. The producers on the left-hand side, e.g. property rehabbers, property flippers, business owners, restaurant owners, internet companies, all need money. All of them need to work with the banker, or money person, on the right-hand side. Producers need to first learn everything they can about the job on the left-hand side, including skills required. For example, as a property rehabber, a producer needs to build a team of contractors and learn how to manage such teams, learn about the real estate business, estimating, making low offers on properties, selling properties fast once they are fixed up, and many other things. In addition to all that, they need to learn how to raise money to get all of it done. The banker, the money person, on the right just needs to learn how to borrow money to lend out and how to make their position safer by shifting the risk to the borrower. The banker can work with all these producers without having to learn much about their skills. And the banker just happens to be the most powerful position in the equation. The producer does all the work, takes all the risk, and gets paid last. The banker does the least amount of work, takes on the safer position, gets paid first, and makes more money. Both the producer and the consumer think the banker needs to have his own money, and lots of it, to make money. Nothing could be further from the truth. And that's exactly why the banker wants to keep it a secret. For example, a producer decides to provide a product for consumers. The producer goes to the bank and gets a loan of $100,000 at 10% interest annually. In the process, the banker ties up enough collateral from the producer to cover the payment. By doing so, the banker has covered his downside. The producer uses that money to hire experts, creating jobs, manufactures the product, more jobs created, and sells it to consumers through retail stores. The producer calculates that a retail price of $5 per unit will cover the cost of the interest to the bank, the cost of manufacturing, cost of goods, and other expenses, and provide a nice profit. He has just over 200,000 units to sell. The consumer buys the product for $5, and that helps fulfill a need or want in their lives. It has value to them. The consumer uses their credit card to buy that $5 product. That ends up costing this consumer $5.12, including interest. The banker gets their $100,00 back, with interest from the producer, and makes an additional profit. By lending money to consumers who use it to buy the product, the producer passed on the cost of interest, including a profit, to the consumer. So, finally, the consumer paid the credit card company, banker, some interest to buy the product, the producer the interest they paid the banker, and the producer their deserved profit. The consumer is blinded. What's interesting about these three positions is the mindset of each. They all think their position is the right one. Very few look at the other, wishing they were in the other's position. The consumer thinks the following: I don't like taking risks. Having a business, being a producer, is too risky. I'll save money to become wealthy, taking perhaps 40 or more years. The producer thinks the following: I can't imagine working for someone else, I can never be a consumer. Having a job, being a consumer, is too risky. I can become rich in 10 years or less. The banker thinks the following: I can't imagine having a job, consumer, or dealing with employees, producer. I make money off of money. I make money by following a very simple model and keeping my mouth shut about how simple it is. The producer and banker understand that without the consumer, they can never make it. So they have to keep conditioning the consumer to spend money. The producer and banker also understand it's a game of leverage. However, the producer sees it as leveraging other people. By hiring people and having them follow a system, the producer makes money off of them. For example, he might pay someone $10 an hour and make $60 an hour off that person. The producer's leverage is about making money off of people. For example, Microsoft Corp makes money from its thousands of employees. It might cost them $1 million to finance and support a certain department over the period of a year, but the company might make $4 million a year because of that department. The producer's leverage is mainly making money off of people. The banker, on the other hand, sees it as making money off of money. To the banker, every dollar bill is equivalent to an employee. They can make money off that dollar bill. The banker looks at the dollar bill as an employee who doesn't sue them, doesn't take time off, ask for a raise, take sick days. So they might make 12 cents for every dollar they have. They prefer it that way, because making money off of money is a lot easier than having to deal with employees, scheduling headaches, and more. The dollar bill never complains. Consider fund managers, mutual or hedge fund managers, for instance. They retain a few people to manage millions of dollars. Fund managers are considered bankers as well. This is an example of financial leverage. They make money off of money. The highest paid hedge fund managers have gotten paid more than $1 billion over the past few years.
All right, so we're gonna stop it at right there. Yeah, because I know it's a lot, but I just wanted to give the people just a few, a brief tutorial of it, because we did mostly. I think it was probably maybe chapters 1 through 3. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Because it's like it's really a lot, but I mean, definitely this is the name of the book right here. It's the Bankers Code, and these are the laws and rules that you need to know when you're going into that. So when I do my next stream, like I said, I'm going to drop a link in there so everyone can download it. Also, if it's too big, I'm gonna just have to get everybody to send me the email so I can send the book to you too. So yes, it's definitely one of the best strategies of learning how these crook ass fucking bankers work and shit. Then we have keep our foot on their neck and just know that you've been getting scammed your entire life. Yeah. So just a few other things I just had right here. This is basically just talking about the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act, and basically just tells you the amendment of public law. As a public service, the staff of the Federal Trade Commission has prepared the following complex text of Fair Debt Collection Practice Act, meaning that you can always go, when you file for, when they go against, like they send you bills and stuff like that, how you can get remittance off your bills, so you shouldn't have to pay a debt on anything. So, basically, I'll go more detailed into it probably on my next stream, so we can discuss this. And also a few other things. So yeah, just get prepared, family. It's definitely going to be a lot of information that I'm going to be sending to everybody, try to get everybody to get out this financial freedom. So let me stop sharing right quick. And it's definitely going to be that's what I'm trying to present right now to everybody, so everybody can have an edge on what's going on. Because like I said, I know a lot of people just stuck. And we still kind of like they trying to put us in that hole, but we can't move, bringing all this stuff on us. But definitely, I'm just gonna keep bringing this info. I don't give a fuck. So hey, it is what it is. Catch y'all on the next one. And we out. We go out with a few tracks, and you know how we do it. Peace, love, and hair grease.
Don't be switching up the scene. They believing in the lies, why you never find niggas. That's why we call them bronze, aka the God killer. When we blaze through, shit is see-through like Grey Goose, and everything around get tight like a straight noose. All we did was give information and they hate grew. Instead of showing love, they gave it all to a